Hello, piglets! Today you're watching or listening to four plebs wrap up their podcast coverage of the first book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. They've read along with you about Carl's frantic stumbling through the first couple floors of the World Dungeon, and now they think they have the right to give their own thoughts and theories on everything that's happened or might happen in the future. We'll see just how accurately they can see through the chaos and carnage into the future that this series holds. So buckle up and suckle up, piglets. It's time to...
Blurp, blurp.
Blurp, blurp. Thank you. Welcome back to Between Pages and Friends, a book club podcast hosted by Con and Lauren, two besties who read a lot of books, and Jon and Kyle, their gamer-turned-reader husbands who've agreed to read with them. I'm Kyle.
I'm Lauren.
I'm Jon.
And I'm Con. Today we are discussing Dungeon Crawler Carl, chapters 34 through the end of the book. This book club podcast is a safe space to read along spoiler-free. But since we've now finished this book, there will be spoilers for all of book 1 in this episode. No spoilers for the bonus chapter or future books here, though. All 3 bonus chapters will be at the end of our read of book 3.
You know, it's a lot safer to continue if you're in a party. Lucky for you, our party is quite large and always growing over on Patreon. All tiers of our Patreon give you access to our Discord, where you can chat about each episode however you like, spoilers or not. $5 a month opens the door to live events, our book club reading challenges, and the full archive of past content. Step up to $10 a month and you'll enjoy early ad-free episodes, merch discounts, voting privileges, a private hangout space, and even more ways to connect with us.
And here's a message from a viewer elsewhere in the galaxy. Here's a recent 5-star review on Apple Podcasts from our new bestie Pacific North South, titled, Kyle, Jon, Con, Lauren, and me. This is my favorite podcast. The consistent Wednesday posts keep my week going. It truly feels like a book club that I am included in. My husband and I are reading Brimstone together, and I'm constantly saying things like, well, Kyle thinks, or Jon says, or referencing inside jokes like Dan B., and he feels the need to remind me that I'm listening to a podcast. Rude. I'll just continue with my parasocial relationship with you all. Keep it up. What are we reading after this series? Can't wait to find out. Thank you, Pacific North South.
Oh, that's so fun.
Oh,
it's Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's Dungeon Crawler. A little late to the party.
Welcome.
Tell your husband we say hi.
Hi, husband.
Yeah, to you only we say hi. If you want a little shout out on the pod like that one, we'd love for you to write a quick review for our show on Apple Podcasts or Audible. It helps new listeners find us, and we desperately need to be found. We are scared.
What? I mean, please find us.
Help! Save me, Tom Cruise.
What did Jon just say before this? I'm stuck in an almond or something.
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell.
He's doing an Austin Powers impersonation. Oh, I'm stuck in an almond.
I was close. It's a nut. That's pretty close.
It'd probably be more comfortable.
Oh my gosh. Now it's time for Con's Declassified Fantasy Pronunciation Guide, the part of the show where we go through all the new names and places mentioned in this chapter section. First up, in characters this week, we have the Krakeran, level 10 neighborhood boss, consisting of multiple shrieking tentacles, and for every Krakeran clone that is killed, the Krakeran Prime births 2 more. We see Mordecai again, no longer a rat hooligan. Mordecai appears now as a much larger, hairier obsidian creature called a bugaboo. Zev, a Kuatin and dungeon admin from the Borant Corporation, now Carl and Donut's PR agent from the Crawler Assisted Outreach Program. Mutka is another dungeon admin temporarily assigned to Carl and Donut while Zev was in a timeout. Mex55 is the robotic female voice that spoke to Carl and Donut while they waited to go live on Death Watch Extreme Dungeon Mayhem. This show is hosted by the Maestro, a huge muscular orc, aka aspiring war leader maestro of the Skull Clan, aka Pork Boy, aka Carl's naughty little piggy. Also introduced on the show was Zhang, Li Jun and his sister Li Na, Frank Q and Maggie Mai's daughter Yvette, and this show is owned by the Maestro's older brother, Crown Prince Stalwart. We hear about a group of guys from Africa called Les Mouvements that were featured on the recap. We see Ralph, the frenzied gerbil, level 11 neighborhood boss, And Mongo, the Mongoliensis level 1, pet of Grand Champion Best in Dungeon Princess Donut. And lastly, King Rust of the Skull Empire also recently arrived in Earth's orbit, but we have not met him yet. In world building, I got lots of lore dumps for you today. So each city in the dungeon has a location manager. There are only 3 location managers for the second floor, but crawlers are not supposed to see or know about them. Damien is the location manager for the second floor that we learned about from a fairy. Senegal Production Systems Unlimited. This is the corporation that owns and operates the rental trailer for Deathwatch Extreme Dungeon Mayhem. The party that's been mentioned a few times is explained by Zev, and we get some juicy details on them in this section. It is a political party that is called the Bloom, and now everyone just calls it the party, and it's ultranationalism. The Bloom used to represent less than 15% of votes, but now they control the entire Kuatine system government and have run it into the ground. They don't get any money from advertising or tourism funds or elite monster sponsorships until the season of Dungeon Crawler World Earth is over. So the party needs cash as soon as possible because they've bankrupted the system, which means they need to finish the season much more quickly than usual without losing the entertainment value. And quickly, I'm throwing in crutch, which was a term that Zev used in this section that I'm assuming is a measurement of time, but we don't know what it means yet. We learn a little bit about the Valte Corporation. This is the manufacturer of the mysterious items that appeared in Carl's inventory. That was a communication device, a tech-based personal shield, and a tech-based weapon. The Valte Corporation currently has an entire fleet parked outside of the Borant Corporation because when they came to collect a debt, it forced Borant into starting this season of the dungeon early to avoid the collection action. Valte is one of the most powerful entities in the universe, and the next season is going to be run by them. We learn that there have been at least 10 faction wars in the dungeon involving the Blood Sultanate and the Skull Clan, among others. However, the dungeon does not always include faction wars, as the Maestro informs us that the Squim conglomerate always plays Battle Royale, which does not include faction wars or Celestial Ascendancy segments. Another quick download from Zev. The Tusklings are the rulers of the Orcish supremacy. Stalwart and the Maestro are princes of the Skull Empire, and that's an entirely different system. And the analogy that she gave is if the Orcish supremacy is a child with a lemonade stand, the Skull Empire is the Walmart Corporation. It's one of the largest and oldest syndicate governments. Carl receives an achievement for the invention of the Jugaboom called Dungeonpreneur, meaning he will be memorialized for eternity with his name in the Dungeon Codex. And other world-building pieces mentioned in this section were the enchanted fur brush of the ecclesiastic, Yogg's special chain, Satan's little hedgehogs, cannot wait to learn more about that, cow-tailed brindlegrubs, flesh-devouring skinner ants, the Gorgon marital aid, Naga, Tauren, Snicks, which are like little fan fiction movies, juvenile Rivenwing, tummy acres, and brindled vespas. And finally, in my fake god segment, we got a new mention of one this week, and it's Eris, god of chaos. Over to you, Kyle.
Very good. My dungeon field guide, very short today. You're almost done with the tutorial anyway. We really only have one thing, the health UI, or really anything with UI after it. UI just stands for user interface. We'll probably hear about health UI, mana UI, inventory UI, menu UI. It's just the type of menu that pops up for whatever thing you're wanting to look at, really.
Sweet. All right, chapter 34. Picking things right back up after a dramatic entrance from the Krakarin, aptly described and probably complete with what I can only assume is a "where's the manager" haircut. But don't ask her if the carpet matches the drapes unless you really want to set her off as we kick off this chapter section with a boss emoji battle.
Oh no.
Boss emoji.
Boss emoji battle.
And here we go. Octopus. Arm. The aggressive, shouting speech bubble. Rocket. Like the ink splat. Parentheses, fairy, and finger pointing down. In parentheses. Parentheses, bicycle and tornado. In parentheses. The champagne glasses clinking. The smiling sunglasses face emoji. The drooling emoji. Oh yeah. A wizard, zombie, a bomb, a guy running, the big bam explosive symbol, the see no evil monkey, hear no evil monkey, a crutch, a cat, the bandaged head emoji, green check mark, parentheses, sparkles, and a foot, in parentheses, and finally an exasperated or relieved face.
Nice.
And that's our boss emoji.
Boss Emoji Battle.
Pretty
Wow.
straightforward for
Yeah.
this first battle.
It even ended on the exasperated face.
faces. Yeah, I wasn't expecting
I know.
those in any of these.
Crazy.
But all right.
Crazy.
Wow.
And that rolls us right into chapter 35, and Carl is all the way effed up, but ultimately fine as Donut drags him out of the chamber and uses a healing scroll. As they head back into the room, Carl grabs the alchemy table that he used, completely untouched, by the way, apparently indestructible, which Carl took as a possible bug that he can exploit later. They get the neighborhood map and notice more brindle grubs starting to populate in the area, so they head to see Mordecai. They give Mordecai Audette's message, and he seems a little pissed off by it. Mordecai had also shifted into something called a bugaboo, advising that the third floor will be full of them. He then tells them somebody wants to chat with them, apparently someone who has a lot of power over their fate. He suggests they open their boxes before Zev arrives, since the cameras turn off when Kuatin show up. Carl gets an achievement for creating the Jugaboom, which gives him a gold coin every time someone else kills something with one. And then he receives the ever popular, and what we get on the cover, his boxers. Enchanted big boy boxers, giving him a bonus in Constitution and a protective shell spell. And then a Kuatin shows up with a pop of water. Chapter 36. Everything turns off when a Kuatin shows up, so his HUD disappears along with his access to inventory or menus, and then they meet Zev. After introductions, she tells them that she is basically their PR manager. She has a gig set for them sometime after the next recap episode. Carl crashes out a little, and Zev surprisingly returns the sentiment and basically laying out the facts of she's there to help them survive, and the better that they do, the better that she can do for them. Donut and Zev bond over Gossip Girl as Mordecai fills Carl in on the quote-unquote party that Con mentioned in her Declassified. It's called the Bloom. They used to represent 15% of the votes but now control the whole Kuatin government and basically have since run it into the ground and have some outstanding debts, which is why they have been moving things along in the dungeon. Zev leaves and they go to head out the door, but they get bombarded by brindle grubs. Chapter 37. They work on getting a bunch out of the safe room as they try and figure out what's going on. Between all the grubs that were in the boss room and the Cluricons they killed, they're getting spawned in. Apparently there's a max limit of 5,000 on the floor, and they've reached that limit. They set a rendezvous point with the Metal Art group and start taking out the grubs as they head that way. They finally link up with the group, who have created basically a set of connected train cars pulled by Amani and Chris, connected by a chain that Amani received from a loot box. They swap boss stories, and as they're chatting, Zev sends Carl a message about repeating something that he said because of how it's playing to viewers, but the idea is cut short as Carl sees one of the old men on the back of the float with his pants down, peeing on the wall. Chapter 38, Amani tries to stop him by putting an arrow into his head, but it's too late. They pull the caravan and send another old man flying off the back, racing to the safe room as the monster emerges from the pea-stained wall. A level 93 rage elemental, to be exact, 15 feet tall and almost as wide, smoky mass of a body, 6 legs ending in claws the size of rakes, and a horned skull. Yolanda was toward the rear, and as they cast Confusing Fog, it rips through her, rushing for Carl and Donut. Carl throws down his protective shell just in time as they run to follow the group to the safe room. The monster casts a gravity reverse spell and hits Carl in the last train car. He snatches up Mrs. McGibbons, and they barely make it inside as the elemental whizzes past behind them. Carl quickly steps out and chucks a Jugaboom at the back of it before shutting the door for good. Chapter 39. They watch the next episode and a recap of what they just went through with the Rage Elemental. They each get a scratch-off ticket from a loot box for a couple achievements from the recent encounter. Carl notices on the episode that the Jugaboom dropped the elemental's health almost 25%. And then they get the daily announcement that includes an update that will massively affect them in their current situation. Starting now, safe rooms and safe areas close 1 hour prior to floor collapse. A bunch of grubs evolved nearby, and the elemental continues to pound at the door. Chapter 40. Carl has a new plan. He tests the disappearing act on the elemental, swiping into the room. And no matter where it spawns, it always comes back. It doesn't learn. And after building a little bike trailer and a bunch of bombs, they're ready. They teleport the elemental away, and they go out to the hallway. As it barrels back around the corner, Carl and Donut take off in their new contraption. And the next bit is just absolute chaos. They make their way toward the stairs. They're dropping bomb babies, running into a bunch of higher level grubs that they dodge or run over, all trying to stay a safe distance away from the elemental's gravity spell. They blow up some of the pupa that release hornet-like creatures, hoping to stall the elemental, which does work in their favor at one point. As they near the opening for the stairs, the chopper gives a breach warning, so they have to dump it. Right before that, they dump a bunch of oil on the ground and jump off before the stairs. It blows, and they prepare to use Donut's puddle jumper ability when they see the elemental turn the final corner. As it does, it races towards them. It starts to slip on the oil as they blip away, and they hear a shriek and a giant blast, and then nothing. And then we get to the crux of this master plan of Carl. Words that he remembered from the Goblin Shamanka and Mordecai. If a mob goes down the stairs, they die. They just dissolve into nothing, which is exactly what happened to the level 93 Rage Elemental. Chapter 41. Now safe, the Metal Arc group catch up and head down to the next floor. Carl and Donut head back to the Kobold Quadrant and another safe room to prepare for their next interview. They kill a few kobolds and dingoes and make it to the safe room, promptly pinged by someone named Mukta, a substitute for Zev. Apparently, Zev is in a timeout. Mukta also picked a different show for them to go on. Carl tries to tell her no and that they were promised the right to refuse, but she basically says, yeah, no, that's not how this works. Carl gets a Gorgon marital aid in a proximity trigger from loot boxes, and then they get transferred to another green room type waiting area. The show is called Death Watch Extreme Dungeon Mayhem, hosted by the Maestro. Chapter 42. Lights come on as they prepare to get shown, the audience appearing in front of them reacting to the show. But then Carl notices more details of the audience. The entire audience are young pre- and early teen males. Then the host shows up, a huge muscular orc. They see two other crawlers seated next to them and apparently two more surprise guests that they can't see yet. The Maestro begins with the two guests that Carl and Donut can see, showing their situation right up to the point where they were basically queued up to die by mob, but then plucked from the dungeon, and their fate is determined by how many scenarios they can guess correctly. Carl's not having any of this and gets up to leave, but is threatened by that little bot. Mukta eventually gets on, and Carl decides to stay, since he can technically say whatever he wants as long as they participate in the interview. He tells Donut that he's going to be doing the talking this time around, and they're promptly brought on to talk to the Maestro. Carl takes charge of the show and ends up helping save the two Asian guys in their party once they're zapped back into their death situation, which obviously pisses off the Maestro. Chapter 43, the Maestro shows Carl and Donut's clip of escaping the safe room to buy some time while arguing with a producer as they try and figure out who their special guests are. We get some lore and info about who exactly this Maestro is. Not quite part of the Sultanate related to Donut's crown, but at least something having to do with that whole thing, and we'll probably be seeing the Maestro again on the 9th floor. And their special surprise guests are none other than Frank Q and Maggie Mai. They show some footage of Frank and Maggie's journey through the dungeon. Maggie's daughter with them, Yvette. It starts with the three of them in their tutorial guild and their trainer telling them that the only way to survive is to kill other crawlers. And then it shows Yvette injured, apparently from a bad llama, and Maggie choking her to death. It shows some other footage, finally getting to when they meet for the first time, and Frank and Maggie are like frozen in the safe room. Well, Yvette was there too, and they did end up running into Carl's booby trap, and that's what Yvette was injured by. They go back and forth a bit on the show. The Maestro eventually gives them their quote-unquote gift, Carl's being a brand new pair of boots that he used to wear on active duty, a little dig, and gives Maggie and Frank a legendary skill potion, which they can use to upgrade their find crawler skill to 15 or maybe 20, depending on who uses it, and that gives them the ability to pinpoint any crawler in the dungeon. Very convenient. Chapter 44. They get some sleep back in the safe room after the show, catch some of the next episode with the announcer giving an update, and especially a important patch for the stairs exploit that Carl used to kill the elemental. And then they get a visit from Zev, basically to tell them the Bourne Corporation is actually pretty happy about their actions on the show, mainly because the show is owned by a specific faction that is at odds with the Bourne Corporation. Put a pin in that, more in a second. Zev confirms that they'll probably be moving through floors at a faster pace, and also that every third floor is basically the same, more so that they come into existence at the same time. Then she tells them that someone made a quote-unquote snick, which is basically a movie version of a fan fiction of Carl and the Maestro, but really it's basically a porno. The video has caused some stir at the expense of the Skull Empire and back to the pen, and that is what makes the Bourne Corporation very happy. Chapter 45. They head out to take care of the kobold boss. The outer room set up like a dog kennel with a few dingoes and cages scattered around the place. Carl feeds them each a pet biscuit, and their dots turn white. Music is blaring from inside the boss room, but just as Carl begins to prepare a juggo boom for their typical big boom toss and run strategy, the boss room doors begin to open, loosing a massive crowd of kobolds having just witnessed their dingoes dingo each other in this episode's round 2 of Boss Boji Battle.
Woof woof.
Woof woof. All right.
Boss Boji Battle.
All right. Flame, mason jar, parentheses, a lizard, and a top hat, in parentheses. Cardboard box, parentheses, hamster, and a plus sign, in parentheses. The smiling purple devil face, a dog, parentheses, hamster, and a kebab, in parentheses. Like the sigh of relief, like that exasperated face. The googly eyes, question mark, a dog, the explosive BAM symbol, parentheses, stack of money, and an older guy. Okay.
Oh, okay.
There you go. There it is. All right. Hamster, the like frightened cat face, boxing glove, the little blue cyclone symbol, a foot, and a guy shrugging. And that's round 2 in this episode of Boss Boji Battle.
Boss Boji Battle.
Yay! Battles. Bosses.
I did not understand some of those.
And wow, Ralph, am I right? Chapter 46. They get the neighborhood map and check the boss room to discover that it's a reward room, a pet reward room to be exact, offering items generally not available within loot boxes. There are 10 cages, each filled with a single creature that they can choose from as their pet. But Donut only has eyes for one, the last cage holding a small, quote, chicken dinosaur thing with pink downy feathers, end quote. Donut begs, and with that, they have a new pet. Donut promptly names it Mongo as it bites her on the nose. Chapter 47. They talk to Mordecai to try and get some info and insight on our boy Mongo, but he can't give anything until they start the bonding process, which means removing his hostility. Then they get the lowdown on what will happen when they head down to the 3rd floor. They'll end up right back in the same room with Mordecai to choose their class. He goes through some fine print and details of what that process will look like, things like options, and just overall how it's going to work. Carl and Donut spend the next day out and about trying to get Mongo to bond. Donut trains Mongo how to fight, and after a few confident kills, his dot turns white, making him non-hostile, but not yet bonded. So they head back to Mordecai, who explains that he still can't explain too much, but that they're on the right track. But what he can say is that Mongo won't start leveling up until he's bonded. So they'll go out, do some more killing, and after one skirmish where Donut comes to Mongo's rescue, he finally bonds with Donut, and he is named the Royal Steed in the party. I love it. They camp out in the room with the stairs to wait for the timer. As they do, Carl remembers his sorting skill that he received. When he goes to his inventory, he sees a new tab titled History. He opens it and sorts by value and sees 3 items at the top that he has never seen before, all very valuable. A relay communication device, a tech-based personal shield, and a pulse pistol. As he's checking them out, none other than Agatha comes strolling up with her cart, heading for the stairs, and it dawns on him that he had taken her cart into his inventory, and as he double checks, he sees all of the rest of her things in his history as well. The high-value items were made by the same Volte Corporation. His mind is reeling as they chat for a minute, not giving away anything he might suspect. As Agatha moves away from them and down the stairs, Zev sends a chat to ask if they're okay because there's a brief outage in the feed, and she couldn't see them. Very interesting. They prepare themselves to hop on with Audette and begin their descent to floor 3. And we get the epilogue. They're on with Audette. They get to see a glimpse of the Snick and find out a little more about the Maestro's show going on hiatus as it's quote-unquote restructures. Audette stays to chat with him again after the show's over. They tell her that Mordecai wasn't too excited about her message. She gives them a little advice on class choice and also finding stairwells as they go deeper, the importance of finding stairwells. Carl asks about the Volte Corporation. She tells them that it's a corporate system government and the ones that are currently looking to collect the debt from Borant when they started the season early. Then she fills them in on what Mongo truly is. A freaking velociraptor. And Audette gives one final piece of advice, one that would greatly increase their chance of survival. Some kind of class that will be hidden among Donut's choices, but only with one problem. If they pick it, it's going to make someone very, very angry.
But who could it be?
And will Donut ever listen to anyone?
All right, well, let's get into it, starting with chapter 34.
Chapter 34. Yes, I like my first note here was how it said, first off, this isn't the Krikarin. This is a Krikarin. For everyone that is killed, Krikarin Prime births 2 more. And I was just like, oh shit, that seems serious. I was like, oh my God.
I just think it's funny that her name is the Krakarin and she's the one who runs this pyramid scheme in here. It's just very funny to me after like the
Amazing.
LuLaRoe shout outs and all of that.
Yes.
10 out of 10.
Good stuff.
My first note was I just like dove right back into this reading section, and then I highlighted this part where Carl says, shit, keep them away. I need to make a goddamn smoothie. And Donut goes, what about the tentacles? And I was like, what am I reading? The craziest place to pick back up.
I feel like that's any place in this book.
Yeah.
And then we get this whole just of him trying to make the smoothie, and he pulls out the fairy, and I'm just like, oh God, what's this going to be? And this is what we get. I shoved her head first into the glass container. Her shoulders were a little too wide to fit, so I had to push. The shoulders cracked, and I used my finger to ram her all the way in there, like trying to stuff a Cornish game head into a thermos. I produced the blender top with the blades, and I had to push hard to get it to screw into place. And I put this note in here, but I have the gif of the little kid going, Jesus Christ. That's exactly how I felt after this little description here. Holy cow.
And then the best part about it was that it made them drunk. I was not ready for that. At the end of the description for the Rev Up Immunity Smoothie, it says, inflicts the buzz debuff, +3 charisma, -1 dexterity, plus shaky cam debuff, plus truth serum debuff. And I wrote, oh no. But then Carl notes that he like doesn't even have time to think about the fact that Donut is also drunk. And I wrote, drunken donuts. That's it.
Wow.
I think it's funny too, like that he even said earlier on the Rev Up Moonshine said like it would give you the shit face debuff, and he was like, I'd hate to see what that's like if this is what buzzed feels like, because he said like the whole room was shaking and everything.
The shaky cam. That's funny.
Well, the truth serum absolutely works for Donut because she starts yelling things and she says, if we die, I want you to know that I love you, Carl. I don't love you as much as I love Miss Beatrice because she's, you know, she's my person. Or as much as I love Ferdinand, but I do love you. So first of all, some more Ferdinand lore there, even though she doesn't know who he is. And Carl's like, bogus Donut. And then to himself, it says, I tried not to let what she had said sting, but it did. Who the F was Ferdinand anyway? V was giving you up, Donut. She was giving you up, trading you in for a younger model. But I didn't say it, not out loud. Now was not the time for that conversation. Oh, that is horrible. And shout out for Carl for at least able to keeping that inside because he also has this truth serum debuff. And then it said, never was the time for that conversation. Not anymore, but especially not now. Not when B was effing dead. And I was like, oh no. That's my note. Oh,
Sure.
what do you mean? About
not
B being
dead.
dead?
Yeah.
My one and only note for this chapter was, I mean, there's a large explosion right as the chapter ends, and I just wrote, Matt sure does love ending chapters on explosions.
He does. Can we get like an analysis of that? Can we just calculate like how many chapters end on an explosion and do like a little percentage?
It got to be at least 30.
At least 30% or 30 chapters.
I feel like that's a lot.
I don't know. There's a lot of chapters that end on explosions.
Could be.
I mean, Carl likes making bombs. So,
And Donuts likes watching, so.
Yeah.
yep. Chapter 35 is where the team, mostly Carl, because we were obviously in his POV, but like the team starts having conversations where they're doing it either in chat or they start maybe like looking at each other and kind of like giving eyes and different things to kind of communicate what they're trying to get across now that they're aware that, first of all, everyone's always listening and what they say can affect, you know, what kind of stuff they get, what kind of things they're going to face, like creatures or battles and stuff like that. So I was just really impressed at how quickly everyone started playing along because they really haven't been in there that long and they're like understanding the system and playing the system already, not just like with the giant trick with the elemental whatever, but like even just in this little way. I was very impressed. I was like, dang, this started so early. Shout out to them.
Yeah. And we get introduced to Mordecai's form of the floor, which is a bugaboo this time, described as like a very tall, like Con said earlier, tall obsidian furred mammal, sort of like a bear, but with real skinny limbs. And the description sort of gives it sort of like maybe these creatures are perverted usually.
Creepers?
Yeah. It's like, don't let this sort of animal catch you in an alley at night or whatever. And I was like, okay.
Kind of awkward because I used to sing a song to Zoe when she was a baby where I would be like, I love you, my little bugaboo. And then I was like, oh no.
Oh no.
Yeah. But thank you for putting his fan art in here because I think that really helps.
Yeah. Lots
Yes.
of fan art from this episode, yeah.
Yeah.
Dang.
That's a weird looking thing.
It
Yeah.
is. Yeah. Sort of gives me the vibe of, what was that? The Babadook. Sort of like the real tall, dark creature. But,
All right.
yeah.
I love John's note under the fan art. It says WTF LOL.
Just a tall bear with red boxers on.
Yep. Donut receives an enchanted fur brush of the ecclesiastic here, which means as long as someone brushes her for at least 10 minutes every night, she would receive an extra 2 points to her constitution for 30 hours. And I wrote, flower gleam and glow. Because now she's Rapunzel.
what's happening. Yeah,
That's exactly
absolutely.
what's happening. Except
But
she gets
2
the
points-
benefit.
Yeah,
Instead
2 points
of
for
the person brushing
constitution
her
for
hair.
her is huge. So
That's,
It's doubling it.
It's doubled. Yeah.
brush her hair. And then I just love that Carl gets more heart boxers. But at least they're clean. It's a clean pair.
True.
And obviously it has an added benefit of the
The shell.
The spell
The
or
s-
whatever.
thank
Or
you.
the
This-
shield, yeah.
the
Durability.
shell or whatever. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's really nice. But I was really just thinking about the laundry of it all and how they haven't done any of that. So
True.
Same.
Well, in chapter 36, I also included some fan art of Zev, which is pretty much what you might have pictured, a little fishy in a astronaut-like suit.
Yeah.
She's a cutie.
so cute.
When I first
so
saw this in the
cute.
notes, I was like, this is almost exactly what
Yeah.
I pictured. A little
Yeah.
astronaut suit with a little, water tank
Yeah.
for the head kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
think it's
her.
kind of funny too, like with the description of the Kuatine on the doors, and then one actually showing up. You're like, oh, they're really tiny. I was expecting like this
2 feet.
freakish alien to show up or whatever. It's like, oh,
Really
she's a cute little
tall,
fish.
skinny.
Yeah.
Good.
I was
Match the
thinking
door.
like the fish from Megamind.
Oh,
His little minion.
yeah.
I don't remember what it looks like.
The
A
minion.
little.
I think it's
He's
his
like
name.
literally swimming in a fishbowl on a suit of armor.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, big robot
Yeah.
body.
Okay. I had to look up the picture because that was going to bother me. In Carl's POV, when she shows up, he's thinking, still, I couldn't help it. She was a Kuatin, the enemy, the real enemy. And I wrote, I highly doubt that.
You're just full of everything you read. You're like, no.
Yes. No. If you tell me too many times that you think it's true and this is book one, it's not true. I'm not buying it. But I do love little bestie Zev, and I love this little line from her where she says, all of us are afraid. Yes, your place in this really sucks. It's not fair. You know it. I know it. The cat knows it. But believe it or not, I am on your side. The better you do, the longer you survive, the better I do. So when I tell you that you should do something, you best listen because I know what I'm talking about. And I was like, yes, go off, little tiny Zev. I love her.
I know, I do too. Oh, and we also get Zev telling us we have identified several individuals and teams that have gained early popularity. As is probably no surprise to you, you two are on that list. And so then Donut's like, so you're our agent? Our PR agent? You get us gigs? She asks with a voice full of wonder. Literally all of Donut's dreams are coming true. Like, it's literally the apocalypse and everything is horrible and awful, but she's living her best life.
She is.
In all of this.
I love this for her.
I'll read my next note as I wrote it, even though I made a mistake. I just wrote, I haven't seen more than an hour of Gilmore Girls total, and this bonding over it was still everything to me.
And I said clearly because they were talking about Gossip Girl, not Gilmore Girl.
I stand by it. I still haven't seen more than an hour of it total.
I haven't seen Gossip Girl either. That's fair.
What?
Oh no.
Wow.
But yeah, Zev being like, oh
shocking.
my goodness. Like totally just going off. And even Mordecai being like, that's not like that episode at all. Like he watched it too. So
That's
good.
the best. It's one of my favorite things.
And then final note for this chapter section for me is Zev, like working several corporate jobs. This is such a corporate thing to do. But she's like, this Save the Elderly storyline is playing great with most viewers. That said, about 20% of the focus group thinks you're wasting time and being stupid.
Focus group.
just made me laugh because so many times we'll have like higher ups come in and be like, wow, yeah, this is a really good idea. It's a good setup. On the other hand, though, what else could you have done with your time? And we're like, well, what do you want me to do?
I just think it's funny that they have a focus group specifically about Carl and Donut.
Right.
And whatever they're doing. Just
Yeah.
pretty good. Oh, well, we go to chapter 37, and the line says, at least these bastards are all level 2 grubs. Even Donut cringed the moment I said that out loud. And I wrote, I cringed when he said that out loud, and then everyone else was cringing, and I felt like I was part of the group. Like, as I kept reading, oh, it's pretty good.
That's cute. Also, they built a parade float for the elderly, which I was cracking up at, but it was like, because this was brilliant until Jack ruined everything. I was also just like really nervous for all of these people, this entire scene. I feel like there's going to be if they do end up going back or traveling more with them, I don't want them to do it purely because I don't want to see what happens when things go poorly with the large group of elderly people. Sure. So I am also in favor of moving on, but I do have a question though. When Carl looks at the like crawler information for Mrs. McGibbons, it says her name is Elle McGibb, but everybody's been calling her Mrs. McGibbons the whole time. Is there a reason that it would be different? Like that her name would be shorter?
Just like her crawler name. If she was the only L, she'd be L. And maybe there was a McG or a Mick or a whatever, but it just cut it off when it didn't need to clarify any further.
Interesting.
Which is kind of odd.
Carl's name is Carl Protector of, like, Royal Protector or whatever.
Well, that's his title. She may not even have like a title, but
well, yeah, because there's like Frank Q is just Frank Q, but then some of them have a whole last name.
Yeah. And I'm not even sure if like Brandon Ann might be more than just Ann, but it's
Chris
just
is just Chris, but they're brothers.
Yeah.
Right.
He doesn't have a last name.
Yeah. As opposed to
that's
like
weird.
I don't know.
like the animals that have brought in usually just have their name and then a number. I think it does something a little bit weirder with crawler names, but
Interesting. Okay. I just thought that was weird.
I also thought it was weird, but I don't have an answer.
Okay, great.
I'm sure because the people also know her. I guess they're not constrained to call her what the dungeon refers to her as.
Well, yeah,
So
I just
they're
thought
like,
it was,
"Oh, yeah."
I just thought it was funny. Because, sorry.
I'm just holding Minnie like a baby, patting her back.
Just had to burp her. I just thought it was interesting because I did a search when I was done. I just searched for Elle McGibb to see if it showed up like that anywhere else, but that was the only place. So anyway, that makes sense though if it's like shortening all the names.
You searched in. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Crazy though that like Carl's number is like 4,000 something, and she was like 12 million. That so many people entered the dungeon between him and her that.
And she's the
that far
only
down.
Elle
and we only
McGibb
started with like
out of 12 million people.
And I think wasn't there only like 15 to start with? Like she was near the tail end of entrance.
I had a note about that in a previous episode that I just left out about Brandon Ann's number being so wildly different from Agatha's. Like hers was in the 7,000s or something, or 7 millions, and his was all the way in the 12. Even though they were in the same group, probably just because they looked, and she just went down the ramp or whatever, and they stayed back to help all the old people. That was my guess, but
yeah, who knows? Yeah, there's probably just like a moment where most of the people were entering and the number just started skyrocketing, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But because I know Carl was like one of the first ones in just because he was naked and freezing. I'm sure other people were like out preparing, like I'm going to go, you know, some people had guns like Frank did. So, but anyway.
Yeah. On a completely different note, this is one of my favorite donut lines from this section where she's laughing at Carl and she says, "You've been hit on twice now. Once by a meth-addled goblin shaman and once by Abraham Lincoln's grandmother. I can't wait to see who you attract next. 5 gold coins says it's some sort of bog witch with a beard." And half the time I wrote, "LOL, please," because I was hoping this would happen at some point. And then she makes fun of him for it again later. And it's like about the snick.
I was gonna say the next thing is this whole like sex tape thing that went out. So very funny. Jon mentioned this in the chapter recap where Carl says, like, if we get to that point, we don't need to help each other anymore. That's when we stop being human. And it says, "I felt something catch my throat, so I coughed." And then Zev just like says out, like, "Carl, that was great. Can you say that for me again? But this time, don't cough." And it's like, I don't know. He got like super mad about it and just like, I don't know, Zev trying to be the PR agent and trying to, I don't know, make a clip of that or however it works out there in the universe. I don't really know. But Carl understandably being upset to, I don't know, being on a show. And the book does such a good job, I feel like, of keeping us in just Carl's perspective and kind of forgetting that there is this whole like weird universe happening. And so like this moment for me was even like, oh my God, they are like listening to every tiny little thing. And it's just crazy. But yeah. And I just love that Zev is there too, as their little help.
I love her. What I don't love, though, is that when it talks about Jack standing up to pee on the wall, Matt Dinniman specifically mentions his Cincinnati Bengals hat again. And I wrote, why you got to keep bringing Cincinnati into this, Matt?
If we ever get to interview him, this is have to be some of the first questions.
Yes.
It really would be,
Cincinnati?
Like,
'Cause
dedicated
I did
the book to
thing.
Fiona. But
I was like, he mentioned the hat again. Like, come on,
get
man.
it up.
I literally just highlighted Cincinnati. That's all I highlighted because I thought it was funny.
Oh, man.
Well, and then Jack's peeing on the wall, of course, summons the Rage Elemental in chapter 38. And I really just love how the AI didn't even bother with the description of this like high level entity coming in, because he was like, "You're probably just running at this point, so I'm not even going to bother telling you about this thing. Probably already dead." I just thought it was really, really funny for the AI to do. And I included fan art of Carl and Donut speeding away from it on their little chopper. I'll
Which
put all
is
this
great,
art out whenever we put it out.
Yes, I had highlighted this part and I wrote, "Fan art, please." And then I got in here to do my notes and it was already in here. So thank you.
There's also like the black and white image at the beginning of chapter 40 for anyone
Oh
who's
yeah,
reading the
of
book too.
the demon or the elemental
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah. I was just proud of myself for this note a little bit. Not extremely, because this wasn't a big deal, but it said the magic missile bounced off of the monster's head and a health bar appeared for a half second before disappearing. And that's when Carl realized it's self-healing. And I was like, oh my gosh, is he about to use the shell already? Because I had a note like earlier on when he first got it where I was like, I'm very excited to like see this used in a battle situation. But Mordecai had gotten cut off earlier when he was about to say how useful the protective shell is because it doesn't move once you cast it. And so I was wondering here if you could trap a monster inside the protective shell to like prevent attacks from leaving it And then I said, or I could see Carl using this to protect like the entire Meadowlark party long enough to get away. And then I wrote called it after that.
Immediate vindication.
Yeah.
Yes.
You should be proud of that. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, and obviously Carl's looking back toward the back of the long float. He sees Yolanda back there, and he pretty much knows what's going to happen as the rage elemental starts coming for him. And he says, I never got to know Yolanda Martinez as much as I would have liked to. There was a warmth about her, something I never felt as a kid. Just being in her presence imparted a feeling of longing in me, something difficult to describe. Like I wished I could relive my childhood, but this time I'd have her as my mother, and she would have never, ever left me. And then she gets rippity-rippitied.
Rippity,
no.
rippity.
She gets rippity.
Slash into
that was
ribbons,
rough.
says Sarah J. Maas.
I was like, it's like you just don't expect... You don't expect that deep of a reflection in this moment.
No, she got like a whole
Yes.
eulogy.
It was like
Yeah.
a full paragraph,
Yeah.
like a solid, good paragraph, and you're just like, oh no.
Well, and it's
Yeah.
such a deep look into Carl's life in that too.
yeah, yeah, true.
It really is like the first death that felt like it mattered. Every other
Yeah.
one has just been
Yeah.
so quick and over. It's like, oh, this guy's dead. Moving on. It was the first time I was
It's
like,
like
oh,
in the
we're
recap
taking a
episode
moment.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And I had a highlight about that too, because even further down the page, it said she lived her entire life as a hero. She died as one too. One moment they were there, the next they were gone. And I wrote, good Lord, I was just not expecting that to be so emotional. I'm really sad about it.
This is how you know you're gonna get got on the cry counter one day.
Yeah.
He's just gonna hit you out of nowhere.
Honestly, though.
Yeah.
This is also a hard pivot, but in Carl's POV, when he says, as I smashed down on the protective shell, I was like, yeah, but I am also really nervous about this sequence of events. And then I don't think I realized until this moment when like it says the elemental had cast the spell and that gravity had been reversed. I don't think I realized that a monster could also do that. Like, can bosses cast spells and stuff?
I think this is maybe the first instance of it directly saying so. It may
Okay.
have like insinuated it with the goblin shamankas being magical goblins, but they didn't
Yes.
do it. It was
Right.
sort of
Also-
like,
This is also level 93, and we've
Yes.
not
True.
seen anywhere near that.
Very true.
So
yeah, most of the bosses, I guess, have relied on brute force. I mean, I guess the juicer lit the weights on fire when he threw them, so there's probably something magical about that, but
Probably.
it didn't explicitly say.
he's over there like rubbing like some flints or something. trying
Tiki
to-
oil on it.
Come on, bro.
Oh, man.
That's good.
Well, into chapter 39, I really went down the fan art rabbit hole today with these notes because I claim there's fan art for everyone, and for the most part there is. What I didn't realize is that even some really obscure things have fan art. So far, going as to like make real life art, somebody made the actual Fireball or Custard scratch off ticket and was handing it out to people at conventions, I found, which is really great. I love that.
Wow.
That is great.
That's amazing.
I want one of those.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love this picture too. This and right when this is getting introduced, Donut's like, I love custard. And then she looks up at she's with the Baka protector again. And I believe this is the one. Oh, I didn't put him in the pronunciation guide. His name is Quist. Oh, I forgot about
Sorry,
Quist. I'm
Quist.
sorry. I think because I had it highlighted as a note and not in my pronunciation guide color.
Gotcha.
But she says, I love custard. And then she looks at him and says, get me custard. And he says, yes, princess. Wide awake princess. What flavor? But this is the first time we've heard him talk. And his voice was amazing in the audiobook.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Well, we get another like daily recap episode and little announcement or whatever. And I just really love, I'm just here talking about the whole book. It's the end of the book. I'm just loving how Matt like keeps everything, like we have Carl's POV, but we get to see like all the rest of the world and how it's like developing, like all these other, we're kind of like following these other crawlers, even though we've never met them. And I was so sad, like when the group from Africa, is that who they were? Right, the group from Africa passed away. Like there was just that one guy crying, and I was like, "Oh no!" I was cheering for them. You know, like it just he does such a good job, even in those like little tiny bits, keeping it, I don't know, super interesting and like learning more about the world and stuff. So I just had that random note here at the daily recap episode. So.
Yeah. It's a cool way to get background info on characters before you actually meet them, too. Like, if we meet Lucia Marr at some point, even if it's like several books away, we will have known about her since book 1.
Right.
So I like that would create a lot of like crazy gasp moments or something later.
Well, even how Carl said he was watching how they defeated something, or like he's like taking notes just himself on how to continue to fight and do stuff. Like, it's obviously, yes, the characters, but Carl specifically is using it like deeper than that. And
Yeah.
I don't know.
I like the subtle notes of jealousy too. Whenever he's like seeing their gear, and he's like, "What the hell? They're like decked out." And he's just getting boxers and toe rings, and he's like, "This lady got like full Viking armor over here, and like she's got, Lucia Marr's got her dogs and everything."
Well, yeah, they make it to the safe room after the elemental, his initial attack, and he like zooms by as Carl like jumps in with Mrs. McGibbons. He pops back out and throws a jug of boom at its back, and it says it shrieked in ear-splitting fury as it healed itself. The healing moved much more slowly, I noted, thanks to the napalm-like effect of the boom jug. And I was like, when we find out how much damage it did to him, I wrote my note. I was like, now get out there and exploit. I was like, you got to use that, man. Come on. That's huge. Because, he probably threw that out there just to, like, piss it off, and definitely didn't think it was going to do that much damage. And then, they're continue to watch the recap episode and everything, and they're seeing everything that happened. And, of course, after it shows Jack, like, peeing on the wall, of course, it's Brandon's brother, Chris, who doesn't say anything, that says, he really did have a weird-looking dick. I lost it. I was like, oh, my gosh. Oh,
Chris.
that was a good line.
Well, and then kind of with that, after the recap episode, they get their little like daily announcements or whatever. And it said the penalties will remain in place for the remainder of this floor, but I'm happy to announce they will be removed upon the collapse of this floor. Thank you for everyone for your cooperation. And I was like, does that mean that this peeing in the walls thing was only because of Jack? And now that he's gone, they can take the penalty away? Like, is that literally all it was there for?
That had never even occurred to me. Like, he was literally the only one in there peeing on the walls.
And they were just really mad about this one guy.
Maybe he was just like the last problem. Like,
yeah,
everyone else
that's
stopped.
true. Could have been the last problem. But
Wasn't it like the first time they
so
brought it
funny,
up
though.
too? They were immediately like, "Tell Jack to quit peeing on the wall."
yeah, oh, you gotta tell
She's
Jack.
like, I think
yeah.
I got a few diapers left.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
Oh, my word.
Well, into chapter 40, we learn about Carl making a contraption to sort of fend off the elemental that he calls the Moab, or Mother of All Bombs. And Brandon Ann corrects him, saying that it actually stands for Massive Ordnance Air Blast. And then Chris tells Brandon to not be that guy. And my note was just, oh man, I'm that guy.
Gosh, Kyle, you're such a Brandon.
But
Put that on my shirt. I'm such a Brandon Ann.
Such a Brandon man.
Brandon, though, also insisted that putting the weight in the front was a mistake, and as part of his reasoning, it says he talked about some Mythbusters episode where they shot a soccer ball out the back of a moving car and the ball had dropped straight to the ground. I told him I didn't care as long as the bombs were far enough away from the chopper when they went off, and this would have convinced me immediately. I love Mythbusters. If you were trying to share some sort of reasoning with me for a science experiment for whatever reason, and you told me that there was a Mythbusters episode about it, I would immediately believe you. Justice for Brandon.
You don't even have
Also-
to see the episode if I just tell you one
I
exists.
can
No.
just say it was on Mythbusters and you'll believe me.
Good
Got
to
it.
know.
Yeah,
Got it.
For any argument ever now, John's just gonna be like, no, it was on
I saw it on
Mythbusters.
Mythbusters.
I saw it on Mythbusters. It's true.
Like, okay. But also,
Can't argue that.
I have to tell you that I typed this note last night about Mythbusters, and I got an email this morning at 10:27 a.m. that was titled
so specific.
Mythbusters.
Oh my
It had
gosh.
nothing to do with the show.
What was it about?
I sent the email.
That's why.
That's it.
That's why it was even more random. It was like a place I get emails from all the time, and it was so. Shout out to you, Bonnie Christine. With she has a surface pattern design course that I have purchased, and the title of her email today was Mythbusters. So
All right.
Gotcha.
Well, I just had a note on the fact that Carl decides to call his bombs babies. It says the apparatus wasn't a bomb at all, but a device designed to launch bombs, multiple types of bombs. It's the bomb's mother, I'd said. Get it? And we can call the bombs its babies. And I was like, wow, we went real quick from the first episode where we killed a whole room of babies to now just calling the bombs babies. All right. Hard switch.
Fire the first baby.
I feel like
And then the whole time was like just different titles with the word baby after it. And I was like, all right.
totally like a side of Carl we had not seen yet, though, where he's like sort of joking, like, get it? And they're like babies. It's like trying to be like a creative, fun
And everyone's
guy.
just like looking at him. Uh-huh, sure.
But we also see more of Donut's love for watching things explode as they are dropping the Bond babies, and she's yelling, yes, burn, baby, burn, to the hall being engulfed in flames, incinerating the grubs.
I just imagine like the little cat, just sitting there. Anyways, exactly. Okay, I freaking love it when a book does the like countdown thing and then it tells me something that happens in every single second. So it was like, we have 10 seconds until whatever. 9, something, these people move there and this happens over there. 8, and this happens over here and it explodes and whatever. You know, it goes all the way down. I don't know if that's like a trope or like a micro trope or whatever it's technically called, but the little countdown thing in a book, 10 out of 10 every time.
10 out of 10.
Big
Was
fan.
it was it Onyx Storm, the last book that we read like that? Was that the one I'm thinking of?
I know Onyx Storm has it, but I don't know if it was the last one.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I
It's
love
good.
that.
It's good though. Yeah.
It's so
I can
good.
start doing that
I just
whenever
like
I
it gets me on
know.
edge. I'm ready for it. I don't know what's happening. My hands get sweaty. It's like everything's it's so good.
I'll start doing it when I have a list of things to tell you, and I know some of them might be bad news. I'm like, okay, 10. This is happening. 9. And you'll be so enthralled by our schedule.
You could just like send me, write it down in a text. Send me like this. Yeah, I'm here for it.
Well, yeah, they get toward the stairs as it's chasing them, and Carl yells, jump. It says, Donut and I both leave from the fast-moving vehicle. It continued its forward trajectory, spilling oil onto the rocky ground, plummeting into the deep stairway hole. The chopper disappeared from view. It crunched, followed by a relatively small explosion. And at first, I was thinking that this was purposeful, that he was like flinging this toward the doors to like bust open the doors so that it would slide down and like basically just go through the doors down into the 3rd level. And then, I don't know, whatever, it would at least be not on the 2nd floor anymore. But with that thought, when I was thinking like, can you destroy the doors down to the next floor? But I was like, certainly if that happened, they would stop the floor collapse because they need the money. Like if the doors were just destroyed and like they couldn't make it down or something, I feel like that would halt something. But then we find out that he was just using it for the area around the door. If they try to go down it, they dissolve and are killed. That still raises kind of a certain point. If something were to happen with the entrances, like all the entrances, I mean, if they need money so badly, something like that would halt the game. Would they have to like stop the floor collapse or something?
Depends on how many stairwells there are, I guess.
Yeah. But even if it doesn't have to do with the stairwells, like I can't even think of anything that would cause that to happen. Like, wait, we can't let the floor collapse yet. This would cost us way too much money. And if it would like end the game too early or something, I don't know.
Well, yeah, and I think it would also decide for them to be deciding like when is it okay for the game to end, or like the show or whatever. Because I think they were talking about the level 9. Like a lot of times it has ended on level 9,
Right.
but I don't know if it's ever ended on level 2 or it's like that stuff we don't know. So it's like, what would they be
Like
okay with happening?
Like the other end of the spectrum, if they haven't made enough money yet and needed to find a way to make it last
Oh,
longer, is what you're
right.
saying.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But then, we find out that mobs who dared to attempt to descend, they didn't teleport away, they died. And that they'd tricked the elemental into the hole. Once it was in there, the dungeon followed its own rules, and it dissolved. It just dissolved the elemental. And I was like, wow. Like, we got two instances of that, and I hadn't remembered either the Shamanka saying that or Mordecai. So it was like, dang, man. He gave us 2 chances, and I didn't even recall it.
There will always be clues, just
Yeah.
like Mordecai said.
Ooh, good
Nice.
point.
True. Chapter 41, my only note is description that just says, mana toast. This is toast. It refills your mana. That's it. Nothing more. Fuck you.
That was read so perfectly.
Thank you. I was just imagining like Matt running out of ideas for something snarky for the AI to say as he was writing, and like this just came out instead. Like he was just like over it with himself.
As we continue the next 2 books, I want you to remember that this is the moment you thought Matt ran out of ideas for weird
that
crap
is
for
a
the AI to
great
say.
point.
I just mean like in the moment
Yeah, I know what you mean.
as he's
That's
typing. I love it.
And then this is when Mukta shows up. She's the admin, and she has talked about how Zev is put into timeout and is her substitute until tomorrow. And my note is just, oh, snap.
I was very concerned about that at first.
When we get into chapter 42, my first and only note for this section is glurp glurp.
Glurp, glurp.
Blurp, blurp.
Glurp, glurp.
Okay, so there is someone in our Discord. Her name's Ashley. Hi, Ashley. And she is so excited that we're covering Dungeon Crawler Carl. And one of
Hi,
her
Ashley.
first things that she messaged me was, I can't believe you're covering Dungeon Crawler Carl. I can't wait for you all to say glurp glurp together. So there it is, Ashley. You're welcome.
Nice.
Anyway. Okay, so on this weird show that they're on, there is a segment, I guess, called Death Watch. Lee Jun and Zhang are playing the game, I guess, where they have to like guess the outcome of a certain scene if the people die or survive. And Carl is like just immediately wants to jump in and help these guys. And the fact that he even just puts out the offer for him to be transferred there is like,
Yeah.
I just feel like crazy in the sense that, yeah, he's putting his own life at risk, but then he's losing his current position and the things he's familiar with in the dungeon, potentially seeing the Meadowlark people again, or some of these other maybe people that he's kind of run into. So it's just kind of like a crazy request in that. But then he immediately just like turns to them and says really quickly under his breath, like, hey, this is how you're going to survive this thing. And then it works, and the guys make it. So shout out Carl, shout out
So good.
Lee Jun, Zhang, and is it Li Na? That whole little group.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out all 3 of them. And
Yes.
yeah, it was just a crazy, like such a random moment, and I'm just totally here for it. So
Yeah. Excited for them to meet again, hopefully under better circumstances.
yeah, well, and crazy to think that a TV or like one of these shows or whatever can just pull crawlers out in a moment like
Yeah.
that. Like you're about to die, so
freeze
we're gonna
time.
bring you on this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was only frozen for that little group of people because
Yeah.
everybody else
Yeah.
was still going. So like, what if some other crawler walked in on that? Would they also freeze? Would they just see everything frozen? Like, it brings up so many questions.
Yes. I did really love this moment where Carl, like, he had gotten up to leave and they were like, you can't do that. And he says, as long as I don't talk shit about you guys, will there be any consequences for what I say? As long as I participate, I mean. And then there's like a really long pause. And she says, they have paid for your appearance. Nothing else. And I was like, yes, Carl. I was
Look
so
at those
excited
contract
for this.
loopholes.
Yes.
Exploiting rules.
Exploit.
Yes.
But then when they go back in, the maestro says these two just broke a record for the most watched second floor battle in the history of Dungeon Crawler World. So freaking let's go, team. So excited.
Well, Carl obviously gets under this guy's skin with the maestro, and I just thought it was very funny where the crowd starts yelling glurp glurp to Carl, and it says the maestro did not like his audience glurping for someone else. This is such a dumb random thing, but being a middle school teacher, I will say that if this would totally be a thing, like to
Yeah.
glurp glurp for someone, that would 1000% be a thing, and would be wildly popular, and everyone would be doing it in like 0.2
That's very
seconds.
true.
So
Yeah.
yeah. At the same time, it's not surprising. I just think it's funny. And then Carl's like getting all this crazy information from the maestro, and he's just yelling stuff out because he's angry and he's trying to basically show some sort of dominance or that he's smarter or something. I don't really know. And one of the things that Carl asks was, wait, are you guys part of the Blood Sultanate, which is the the crown that Donut is wearing. She has to like kill everyone in the blood sultanate before she can like move down to the next floor. And Maestro says, "Do I look like a effing Naga to you?" And so I put this in here. I actually asked Kyle, I was like, should I put this note about the Naga? Like, could you explain to everyone what a Naga is, just in case? Because I want to make sure we all know. So, Kyle, could you tell us what a Naga is?
Yeah, and I forget what other book we were reading on podcast, but Nagas were mentioned. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm reading a book that mentioned Nagas as well. This was the book that I was reading that mentioned Nagas. But yeah, Naga is like sort of like a serpentine creature, usually. But yeah, that's it. Pretty basic.
That's it? That's your explanation. Got it.
Well, I don't want to give too much of a description, I guess.
Oh, I just was thinking like a D&D description of a Naga, but sure. It's okay if serpentine is all we get.
Yeah, sir. If you want to get D&D about it, they do come in many different forms of, I guess, serpentine creatures, because they can show up like with or without arms or with legs. Some of them can look almost human. There's a lot of different Naga hybrid type creatures, but the basics of it is serpentine. There's always something snake-like about them. And they say,
Snake-like.
perhaps you'd like to see how snake-like I could be, like Jafar.
Slither little sneaky
snake. Snake.
I'm like pretty.
So,
I hope
apparently
I'm
that's what the blood
thinking of the
sultanate
right
is.
monster, because that'll be real embarrassing if I'm not.
No, I think you're right.
I was only familiar with the Naga, at least like the term, because of Akatar, but they're different in Akatar.
Yeah, I think that was the one that you guys thought I was talking about when we talked
Yeah.
about Nagas before, but yeah.
Yeah, that one's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess maybe we'll find out about those another day. Because that's all we get. Then it says, the Maestro and I were not on equal footing, but my short confrontation in the production trailer taught me something important. I didn't need to be stronger than him. Donut and I were something better. We were expensive. And I was like, yes, Carl, know your worth.
Now he's
Hell
getting it.
yeah.
Yes,
Now he's getting it.
Carl.
And
Donut's always been there. Let's be clear. She's always been there.
Oh, well, yeah.
Donuts.
She knew that.
Carl's just, he's just caught up.
And it kind of ends here. What happens again? Here at the very end.
You wrote the recap.
He basically
Let's go
just
back.
humiliates the Maestro on his own show.
Is this when they get say? Yeah, this is when it shows the guys like running to safety or whatever. The guys that he helped.
Yeah.
So they are like running to safety. And obviously the Maestro's not happy, and he looks over at the Maestro with a big smile on his face, and he says, "Glurp on that, mother effer." And I was like, hell yeah, brother, stick it to him. I loved it. He like, the whole thing was just so great, how he just turned the audience against him, and just like that whole thing, he just kept poking and prodding him, and just, Carl took control of the show. That's what I love.
Yes. Yeah, I love that Donuts had all these moments on like other shows where she's like, I'll do the talking, let me handle it. He like completely turned this audience around.
Well, I love it said like her little remarks too. Like wouldn't even address the Maestro, and she would be like making fun of his questions and stuff. It was good.
Not as good as chapter 43. And I am not reading the actual quote here because I don't want to talk about it. But the part where Carl and Donut see the clip of Maggie just strangling her own daughter had my jaw on the floor for like 6 minutes straight. John was in the room with me while I was listening to this part, and I like literally just like turned around and was like, and just my face just like dropped, and I don't know, I highlighted it at the moment and I wrote, what the F is this? And then my current note as I was writing my notes is, I have still not recovered from this. I'm sure there is way more to this story because we've already seen how much the AI leaves out, and their story seemed even more butchered from this like highlight reel on the show where things were like out of order and it was making it look, different. But I don't know what explanation there could have possibly been. I was not okay reading this part.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's obviously skewed because it is coming out of order and it's from this crazy TV show. So
Yeah.
I do remember, though, reading this interaction with Frank and Maggie earlier in the book and asking Kyle, I was like, is this the part where their daughter's in the bathroom the whole time? Like, I remembered and I knew she was there. And I was just, it hit so much worse knowing that the whole time. And
Yeah.
it's awful.
And even the
Absolutely
fact that it was his little trap or whatever was like,
I
oh my
know.
gosh, that sucks so
After his
bad
whole
for-
struggle with the goblin babies, and then
Yeah. And that's literally like, even though he didn't receive any of the credit, like his first time harming another crawler at all.
yeah.
Rough times.
Absolutely. Well, and it's just extra worse for Frank and Maggie because it says that in one of the videos they watched that their game guide, which is a floating brain mind horror, whatever the freak that is, and
They
it
look
says
like
it sat the
jellyfish.
okay.
Brandon and
That's all I
talks
know.
about him.
It says it sat the three of them down and told them the only way to survive was to kill other crawlers. So it might not have even been Frank and Maggie and Yvette's normal, like they weren't maybe bad people before all of this. This is just like their advice, or this is what they were told is the only way to survive. So it just,
Yeah, which is interesting to think that, like, because so far all we've known is Mordecai. And up until this point on the first read, I had assumed, like, okay, so everyone's game guide just gives you the actual rules. But clearly different game guides give different advice and stuff like that, which is crazy to think about. Like, this one was just like, yeah, you just got to murder everyone. Like, they just took it as, you know, how are they supposed to know any better?
Ugh.
yeah. And then finally, Maestro gives their gifts that they get for being on the show. And I think the Maestro thinks he's playing a joke on Carl or whatever. And he gives him fancy boots that are really not that great. And Donna's like, oh, Carl, you have boots now. And Carl says, like, I just imagine it with the most cheesy, stupid grin ever. Like, I love them. Tapped on the top of the box, smiling. I hope they weren't too expensive. Like, he is just getting under this guy's skin to the most extreme that he possibly can. And it's, yeah, Carl's just hilarious. And this whole interaction with Maestro is top tier.
Yeah. And then, of course, the end of the chapter, he gives Frank Q and Maggie Mai the legendary skill potion. And it says, for the first time, the woman smiled, which was like such a great little suspenseful sentence to like end on. But I was like, damn, like that whole thing was intense and hilarious at the same time.
Well,
It was
especially
so
because the name we know is Frank Q, and he seems like he's going to be something. And then in this moment, he's like shell of a character, and
Yeah.
she all of a sudden is the one with this creepy smile. So, yeah.
Yep. That takes us into chapter 44, which gives us a little insight into their new stats, which it is now at views 1.7 trillion, followers 439.9 billion, favorites 42.4 billion. And I was like, holy F.
It went up a little bit.
As soon as I saw the
Just a
trillion,
smidge.
I was just like, okay.
I do remember in the very first episode, though, you mentioned the first time they had views, and it was something billion, and you were like, "Oh my god!" And I was like, "Bro, you have no idea. Like, this is the end of book one."
Well, I know. That's why I was like so shocked that it was like the very first update that we got. It was crazy.
It was like the whole galaxy or whatever. So
Yeah, wild. Okay, well, the production value of the show must be pretty freaking amazing if they have immediately spinning 3D renderings of the individual bombs from the mother of all bombs. I was very impressed. So shout out to the production designers at Dungeon
AV
Crawler
team.
World Earth. Yes, they must be working around the clock to make that happen. I'm impressed. Also, I still have no idea what the currency amounts mean in this world. I don't really have any context for that, but I do love that my boy Carl is earning some passive income from the Jugaboom, even if it is heavily taxed. The dream. Good for him.
yes, that is great for him. Finally, Zev comes back, which is exciting because that was a little
Zev.
nerve-wracking. And she explains that she was like taken away because she tried to attempt to tell them about Jack peeing on the wall and that they should like run away, and that it was deemed that they noticed it at the same time. So she was like, fine. But she says, but even though my record is technically clean, it's not really. Once the AI notices you, it's difficult to go unnoticed. So I have to be extra careful from now on, which is kind of interesting, not just because of like Zev, but also from like literal moment one, Carl's toes were noticed by the AI. And so he's already been noticed since moment one. So that's kind of interesting. All those because those little tootsies.
Very true. I also love Zev for all of her little lore dumps that she's just been dropping this whole section. And she's talking about how the politics regarding all of these things are like way too complicated to even start to explain. However, that particular production, she's talking about the Maestros, while technically private, is owned and operated by a prince of a faction that is allied with another faction that is at odds with the Borant system. All of it would make your head spin if I were to explain it to you. And I am just dying to know more about this. I love this.
You just want to know all the corporate tea.
I do. I want the tea. Fill me in, Zev.
Well, then she gets into some details about how the floors work. She says, again, I can't tell you much, but those floors 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and 18 all come into existence at the same time. You can only visit them in context with the rest of the crawl, but that doesn't mean that they're not being utilized. Whatever happens on the 9th and 12th floors happens with or without the crawlers. It's a game within a game where you are not the main focus, at least not until you get there. Sorry, that's all I can say. And I was like, that is super interesting. And I was thinking back to what the Goblin Shamanka was telling them. And I'm guessing maybe this is what she meant when she was talking about how they can go like further down or further floors down, but then not have to worry about crawlers and just literally just exist on the floors. And then it's just like no crawl. They don't ever see any crawlers. Like nobody's killing them. Like they don't have to kill anybody. But that's also like, it's not that the dungeon isn't happening indefinitely at the same time. Like there's an end to it. So it seems like it would end when the specific crawl that they're part of ends too. Or is it part of what they said when they just like go to sleep when their floor collapses or whatever? So I just thought that was kind of interesting and kind of crazy.
Well, especially because no one's ever made it past floor 13. So
Yeah.
15 and 18 are just chilling there. So it kind of goes with that.
And then Zev explains what a SNCC is. It's like a fan fiction video. And she says, this particular video is short and a little, what is the word? Explicit. And as soon as she said that, I was like, oh, God, no. Oh, no. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and it just says, and let's just say Carl has the upper hand during the scene.
Gosh.
Oh, it's so funny.
I love how, like, the audiobook is amazing, but the inflection was hilarious here when Zev is like, in fact, it came out so fast, some people think it's real. It's not, right? Like the way that she pauses. It's so funny. And he's like, are you asking me if I fucked an orc? And then Donut is like, wait, it's a sex tape? And starts cracking up. And this is where she's like, I thought it was going to be a bog witch that finally stole his heart. It's just the callback. So good. It's funny.
Yeah, and then Zev tells them that the fact that this happened at the expense of the Skull Empire has made the party very happy with you. And I was like, fine, I guess, but like inadvertently getting on their good side is still probably not great. So I was like, this kind of worries me for them a little bit.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the AI thing earlier. Like once you get noticed or something,
Yeah.
even if it's a good thing, maybe it's not a good thing.
Right.
Hard to go unnoticed.
Yeah. She also mentions a deity sponsorship. She says there's not much the other governments can do to you, not until the 6th floor, or if they spring for a deity sponsorship this season. But anyway, don't worry about anything happening outside your floor. That's my job. And I was like, wait, does this mean like anyone could potentially pay enough to like control what happens to a specific crawler in the game? That's what I'm taking that to mean, at least for right now. I'm sure we'll see it happen at some point. I'm getting silence. Okay, great. That's nuts.
The chapter ends when they're like, I forget, they're heading out or heading back
in the dungeon,
whatever
yeah.
they're doing. Yeah. Donut is like kind of saying this out loud for the viewers. She
Very
says
dramatically, yeah.
very dramatically, Carl, darling, I can't believe you hooked up with that guy. She pushed at the door, heading out of the room. He sure squealed a lot, though. Her laughter trailed off into the hallway, and he said, God damn it, Donut. But her laugh that he does as she's, like, walking away was just, this had me laughing out loud. This was pretty good.
Oh, my gosh. So chapter 45. My first note was Donut in the chat, in all caps, of course, as they're like walking into this boss battle, going, "The music is making my head hurt. Why can't they play something good like Oasis?" And I was like, Oasis? Donut, what? They're gonna start playing Wonderwall when you like walk into a boss battle. I just can't. It caught me so off guard.
I also like how she was like, it's better than country, which is what Beatrice liked. And even Carl's like, yeah, that should have been my first sign.
I was really concerned about what was about to happen here, though, because it says that the outer chamber was set up as a giant dog kennel, and I said, "Oh dear God, are they about to kill a bunch of puppies?" And then he hears
Valid
cheering,
concern.
and I was like, "Is this an effing dogfighting ring?" But unfortunately, this also immediately made me sing the song "Your Love Is" by Paul and Storm, and it's still stuck in my head. So if you know that song, probably immediately know what I'm talking about. If not, it's really hard to explain.
Just think of Oasis to get it out of your head.
Yeah, there you go.
Sing some Wonderwall.
There you go. Oh, but thank you for this fan art of the kobolds and the dingoes.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen this one yet. Okay. He's like a little lizard guy, I guess. I wasn't... Are these the
Well,
ones
they're
that they said are like
a little
few
bit
feet
more
tall?
Chihuahua-y.
Chihuahua,
Is how he
okay.
describes them in the
I
book.
see. Oh, now I see.
Because
Okay.
I think even Carl says like, oh, in D&D I'm used to them being like, yeah, tiny little dragon folk, but here they were Chihuahuas wearing like spiked helmets.
He's got his little
But she's
sword.
like, that's pretty accurate though if you know how Chihuahuas act and how kobolds act.
Oh. Wow.
Well, finally, the actual like boss comes out, and it's this like little gerbil guy. And right as Carl notices it, it says, "As I ran," so like he notices it, immediately starts running, and it says, "As I ran, I had a brief moment to marvel at how much I'd changed in the past week. My original instinct would have been to hide. Instead, I ran towards the danger." And my note is just all caps, "A week? This has only been a week?" This is insane. It's absolutely insane. And then Donut looked pointedly at my foot and said, "It's a small rodent. Your feet are all nice and shiny. And as Miss Beatrice used to say, time to pay the daddy tax." And he's like, "Wait, what? Under what circumstances would she say that?" It's so funny. And then later she's like, "I think she said it about you." And he's like, "That's still not good." Like, it's
Yeah,
still
it
not.
does make me feel better.
And that is, fun fact, Kyle's name in this recording room right now.
Yes, it is. Daddy
I'm
tax.
Daddy Tax.
All right.
Okay, chapter 46. Oh my gosh, freaking Cincinnati comes up again. It says, "Just remember what happened with Harambe. There ain't no zookeepers around here to shoot the monster's ass if you bite off more than you can chew." And I said, what is it with Matt Dinniman in Cincinnati? Why are you bringing Harambe into this? That's rude.
When was this book released? Is that like a
I was
deep
gonna
cut,
say.
or was that like recent?
It was
to when this book came out.
It happened a long
2020
time ago.
was the release of the first book. I don't know how long he's been writing it, but
Hold on,
Harambe
he
thing
released
was
this
like
book in
2012.
2020? And there's
Yeah.
8 books out. That's insane.
yeah, actually it is crazy.
October of 2020 was the book release.
Harambe was 2016.
2016. Yeah.
So it's still a pretty far back reference there.
Yeah.
It's a long time for the internet.
Yeah, but Harambe's immortal on the internet. I don't...
Like it's a long time for it not to feel like a pointed attack at Cincinnati. Like
Yeah.
there was probably other things he maybe could have referenced, but he decided to stick there. with
He sure
Cincinnati,
did.
so.
Yeah, especially after the first 2 instances of just happening to mention the.
Is this
The,
affecting your guys' star rating at the end of the book? Are you guys feeling attacked?
Minus 2 star spokes for hating on Cincinnati.
Oh man.
2 whole spokes. Oh my gosh. I feel like though he is the type of author, I know for a fact from interviews and everything, like if he gets called out for something or he thinks, even like with Jeff Hayes, like voice wise, he will double down on it. Like he's written characters specifically to try to like trip Jeff up or like pronunciations that are way like too hard
luck,
for him.
Con.
So like even like even like jokes that people have said like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you did this in your book." And you're like, "Well, I guess I'll make it worse next time." There's never like any dialing back. It's always just going further.
I love that. Which is, I feel like, an appropriate strategy for these books specifically.
I mean, especially with this book, and how crazy it's already been. And that's our starting point. Like it has to only move forward in one way or the other. And
Yes.
he chooses to, double down.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I did get excited though, because while I knew next to nothing about this series in advance, I had heard about Mongo. And when it said that there was like a chicken dinosaur thing with pink downy feathers, I was like, oh my gosh, are we meeting Mongo already? I think I just thought Mongo was like later in the series. And I was so excited for this.
That's how Kyle felt about Zev. Whenever Zev showed up, he's like,
Oh, yeah, for
book
a lot
one.
of things. I was like, oh my gosh, is this in book one?
Yeah.
It's just all thrown at you so fast that with the later
Yeah.
books, it's sort of like, I don't even remember when I met these people. I just
Yeah.
know they're here now.
Yeah.
But I did throw in some Mongo art for you, too. I found a little Mongo sticker online.
Cute.
I tried to find, earliest Mongo I could find.
Yeah.
Little babby Mongo.
I did try to keep that spoiler free for you though, because I recently got a donut shirt, and there's a picture of Donut writing Mongo on it, and I sent you a picture of it, but I put spoiler, and I blacked out that picture
Crossed it out.
because you
Yeah.
didn't know who Mongo was yet, but apparently
Yeah,
you did.
I'm sure
But
some
I
of it might
tried.
have been
I was trying.
might have been spoiled when we were at Enchanticon. We were like, "Oh my gosh, it's
The
Carl and
dinosaur.
Donut," and
Uh-huh.
she was riding a
Yeah,
dinosaur. I was like,
that's a
"Wow!"
big inflatable dinosaur. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
But
Shout out to those
Still
people
try.
though. That was amazing.
yes,
It was.
Well, there were two kind of descriptors of Mongo in here, and the first one I had highlighted, and I was like, okay, chicken, like small chicken thing with downy feathers. And then the second one, I think it talked more about its like the short arms and like the claws and some stuff. And I was like, wait. Dinosaur looking chicken, short arms, feathers. I would have said a baby Rex, but I remembered that velociraptors like supposedly have feathers and didn't actually look like what we see in the Jurassic Park movies. And I was like, did Donut just pick a freaking velociraptor as a pet? I was like, oh my gosh. And I didn't want to look up the Mongoliensis or whatever. I didn't want to look it up for fear of a spoiler. So I was waiting until we get that confirmation from Audette in the epilogue. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited for Mongo.
It is
See how
absolutely
big
hilarious.
he gets. It's going to
Yeah.
be amazing.
Well, and then Carl was kind of talking about the pet and everything and which one they should get and who's kind of getting it and stuff. And he said he knew it would be best to let Donut have the creature. It says, I didn't know for certain which attribute counted the most towards keeping it happy and not murdering us in our sleep, but I imagined charisma had a major role and maybe strength. And Donut outranked me in both. And I just think that Donut being stronger than Carl is probably the absolute funniest thing we've read this entire book. Just picturing that and how that works.
but being too ladylike to make use of.
Absolutely. Yeah, she would never. She would never. Even later when she's training Mongo and she's like, I have to use my claws.
Yeah. Well, then in chapter 47, we get one of my favorite achievements in the book that says, new achievement, PETA enthusiast. You somehow managed to remove the hostility of an aggravated non-sapient enemy. That enemy then fought against other enemies to your benefit. The ghost of Steve Irwin smiles down upon you. Reward? I said the ghost of Steve Irwin smiles down upon you. That one got me good both times I read it.
That is a reward.
That I was going to say, that is a pretty good reward.
Yeah.
So, for sure. Okay, so this is a note that I caught, and I really don't remember this, and I don't know if we have any thoughts. So they finally go to Mordecai to talk about the pet and everything, and they sit him down, and he says, all right, here we go, Mordecai said as he rubbed his furry hands together. Here's the deal. He indicated a pair of chairs asking us to sit. I sat down, placing Mongo's cage on the floor between me and Donut. The guide seemed oddly excited about this. I noticed for the first time that he'd cleaned up his chambers. His bed was made, the shelves with the pictures of his brother and the urn with his mother had been straightened and dusted. My note here was just what changed for Mordecai? Like what would have changed this? And Kyle and I had like a brief conversation where he said, I saw that note. Do you want to know my theory now? And I was like, no, save it for the episode because it's only in an hour. So I've been really excited to have this
Can you
conversation. with
tell
Kyle.
us? I have it in my
think
thoughts
I
and theories,
think-
actually.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
nice.
Well, we can wait till then if you
But
want.
no, I mean, I just had forgotten to highlight it and I was thinking about it later.
Oh.
But if you have
Because I
something
have
that's not
maybe a theory
spoilery,
on it, but
Oh, I would love to know.
Mine is not spoilery, and I assume Lauren's is not either, or at least we can non-spoiler it if
Or
it
we
is.
would not have brought this up. We've had many a conversation like this
Yeah.
that we don't put in the episode. I just so.
Did you want yours first, Lauren? It's your note.
No, I want to know yours because that was the whole point of
okay.
me asking it.
Okay. I had two. The shorter one is that he's excited about having someone get to the fourth floor because we learned earlier, like, that's when his contract is over. They just have to get to the fourth floor.
I think that was mine too,
And
was that he
maybe
finally
just, like,
realized these people
yeah,
are sticking
it's possible.
around. Yeah.
However, my other one that I literally thought, when I saw your note, I was like, oh, this is like the conversation pretty much just after they said, hey, we met with Audette and she's been watching you and she like wants us to tell you this message. And he might have been like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think I was being watched. So like getting out of this sort of like depression mess, cleaning up, like obviously still not sure of like his full thoughts on her, but just like maybe being like, oh, people are watching me, and then knowing what Carl's numbers are, maybe just being like, oh, trillions of people are watching me now.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I think I just thought maybe he assumed. I mean, I don't know how long he's been a game guide, but assumedly he's been for a while, and all the people he's had his past like had died somehow. So maybe now he's gotten to a point where he's like, oh, maybe this one will actually make it or something, and he actually cares.
John had a quick theory about this too when we were talking about it earlier about why.
I said maybe it was just because, like, you know, one of the last times we saw him were all the grubs that got into his place, so he just had like an OCD cleaning spell. It was just like, all those bugs were in here, I gotta clean.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Maybe it wasn't even him. Maybe it was the Meadowlark group, since they were in there hiding from the Rage Elemental. Like, the staff was like, we're going to clean this place up. This is not elderly safe.
It's hilarious.
Aw, and they were taking care
I
of
could
Mordecai.
totally see that, though.
I could see that too.
Yeah.
That's
I like that
cute.
one the best.
Oh, that's very cute. Mine was more related to his contract ending, but I was wondering if maybe he had found out that, like, because the game was accelerating, that his contract was like now at the third floor instead of the fourth or something, because they hadn't gone down to the third floor yet.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
that was my thought.
Yeah.
Well, Carl makes kind of a sudden move close to Mongo in his cage, and Mongo goes to like swipe for him or something. And obviously you can't attack in a safe room. So Mongo gets blipped out into the hallway, and they go out looking for him. And it says, we eventually found the thing huddled in the main hall, crying like a baby, squawking at the top of his little chicken lungs. And I just had to write an LOL here because that was just a funny picture.
And then it immediately bites Donut.
Yeah.
Yes, I have where Donut says, "It's okay, I'm here. Mommy is here." He rushed up and chomped her directly on the nose. And I said, it's giving Onyx and Saris.
Yeah, that's it.
It's a good thing her constitution doubled. That might have saved her from that little nose bite.
Honestly, though, I mean, how big is Mongo here? Because it can perch on Donut's shoulder. So he has
Right.
to be super, super, super tiny.
Well, and it said that Donut grew ever so slightly when she ate the biscuit. He was like, oh, she's slightly bigger than she used to be. So, I don't know.
Okay. So, yeah, they are kind of going in this back and forth of trying to train Mongo up and get him to, I don't know, be on their team and stuff. And we learn a little bit more from Mordecai, where he says, is kind of like telling him about how pets work and everything. And he says, there's also this one lady who brought like 15 goats in with her. She's still alive. And so are the goats. It's bizarre. There's this one show that is obsessed with her. What? Why does she even care? That's 15 goats. That is insane. They're trying to keep track of and herd around the dungeon.
Yeah.
I need more of that.
I also
I want to
love
watch the one show that's obsessed with her.
I love the mental image of like her getting like, I don't know, zapped up to go like to a show, and they're in like the tiny little holding space, and she's in there with all 15 of her goats.
All of the goats. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, I can't imagine, like, as much as Carl was surprised with the one cat notification, like, entering into
Yeah.
a dungeon with 15 goats and realizing, like, oh, we all have to survive.
Yeah. It's hilarious.
But yeah, and then finally they get Mongo bonded, and Donut cries, "We did it! We tamed Mongo!" And she like immediately changes his title in their party to the Royal Steed. And I just really loved this. This is great. Royal Steed.
A noble steed. So Carl ends up seeing Agatha, and he says, Agatha, holy shit, she's still alive. And I wrote, Aggie, how the hell are ya? So excited she was back. Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, Agatha kind of saunters up. This is after Carl had already gone through his inventory history, that new tab, and had kind of seen those 3 new items that he'd never seen before, manufactured by the Vault Corporation. It says his mind race, and he thought of what Brandon had said. Agatha had been the one to set their old folks' home on fire, bringing everyone outside. The act had temporarily saved the lives of hundreds of people, but did she work for Borant? Had someone just given her that stuff and she didn't know what it was? And why the hell hadn't she shown up on the recap episode? Should I say something? And so he was like kind of spiraling down this, kind of starting to get some conspiracy theory questions going. And I was like, oh my gosh, was I on to something about Agatha? And we'll get a little bit more into that and like thoughts and theories and stuff.
Ooh.
But yeah.
Yes, I wrote, John, I think you were. But then it says, when he says something about, I forget exactly what he said. Was it something about her shopping cart or the something? Oh yeah,
I
something
think it's
like
after
that.
he accidentally said, I need to talk to you about your shopping cart. But he's like, didn't really mean to ask her about it.
Yes, and it says, Agatha paused. She gave me a sharp look. Through her roomy eyes, I saw a warning there. No, those eyes said, stop now. I feel like, at least just from what we've gotten in his POV, that Carl is very intuitive, and he's highly observational, at least in some of these circumstances where he's trying to like piece something together. So this also convinced me that John is correct.
And then he kind of tries to play it off by saying that her wheel is squeaking and that he needs to fix it or else the mobs will hear her or whatever.
Right.
And she says, no need to fix my squeak, boy. Them critters already know I'm here. They just don't know what to do about it. You worry about you, and I worry about me. I was like, the hell does that mean? What's going on here? The hell's going on here?
And there's an
I started
outage
freaking
during
out.
this whole conversation.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, and then Carl thinks to himself after this like whole conversation, she kind of like goes ahead and goes down the stairs, and he said, what sort of bullshit was this? I thought back to the inventory potion. The moment I discovered the items, Agatha had appeared. Was that a coincidence? Was she working with the system AI? And I was just like, this is all very, very curious and interesting.
And I put the gif from The Incredibles where the teacher's like, coincidence? I think not.
Like gets all up in the camera.
Yes.
There, right there.
It moved.
Well, that's the end of the chapter section, but we also get the epilogue, and I love the little drawing of Mongo at the beginning. And then Audette's production assistant had given the small monster a bow tie to wear on the show. It said Donut had trained him to perch quietly on her back, clinging to her fur. I'm dead that this is a literal velociraptor, and it's riding on Donut's back wearing a bow tie.
It's just like hanging on
a
back
dapper
there on her
little
back. Like, she's sitting
Just-
perched down. He's just like,
Clawed into the
Picture
fur.
that, like a little, just a little
funny.
baby velociraptor in a bow tie on top of.
We actually, whenever you got, I almost said donut. Whenever you got Minnie her crown, Kyle and I were like, oh, we should get her like a little Velociraptor plushie or something, but we couldn't tell you that yet. So that's what she needs for book 2.
That's so cute. Okay, I'll look on Amazon.
Some little cat toy.
Yeah.
Oh, it's cute. Well, they are on Audette's show, and I just thought this was also really funny. Audette is kind of doing what Carl was doing earlier, where they are saying very pointed things, but they're making it seem in such a way that they're being positive or kind or, so nice you can't, I never said that against you, or whatever. And Audette says, I would personally like to assure King Rust that I would never call Prince Maestro Carl's naughty little piggy or pork boy. And I would like to encourage my audience to never sink to that level. Again, it's Prince Maestro, not She held her hands out, and the audience shouted, "Carl's naughty little piggy," followed by peals of laughter. And that just made me laugh. It's iconic.
Working the system.
Yeah, she is.
Yes. I had some questions here when they asked Audette about what happened between her and Mordecai. And she says, "We don't have time to get into it, but the short answer is I pushed him too hard and he paid dearly for it." So I was guessing that Mordecai blames Audette for the death of his brother, maybe, because they just found out that his brother was also a crawler. But now I'm wondering if Mordecai's mom was a crawler too, because like how would he have her ashes in the urn? I mean, even if they were both crawlers, I still don't know how he would have that, but unless they both survived.
Yeah.
I mean, some lady has 15 goats, so maybe he
That's true.
Took his mother's ashes into the dungeon.
But like,
put it in his inventory and held on to it this whole time. I don't know.
Yeah, he doesn't have his brother's corpse laying around. So.
right. Yeah, I don't know. But he's got a picture of his brother, but not his mom.
True.
Yeah.
I don't know. Confused.
Well, then Carl asks her about the Volte Corporation. I contemplated telling her about Agatha, but decided against it. I decided it would be best to just stay away from the woman the best I could. And kind of as he's thinking through this here, I was like, Agatha be a corporate spy, baby. She's working for the Volte Corporation, especially since she had a weapon in her inventory that is tech-based, that they describe like Volte is very technologically based species or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a little more to it, but yeah, she's definitely there to scope things out in some way.
Yeah. I also think this makes even more sense knowing that Volte came to collect their debt from Borant, and that was what caused Borant to start the season early, because if Mordecai was supposed to be part of the season and he didn't even know that it was starting until Carl and Donut showed up.
Dungeon crawler Carl.
Yeah. There's no way Agatha could have known to get everybody outside at that moment, but right before the dungeon opened, unless she was working for Volte, because they were the ones that went to Borant to kind of force the start of the season early. Unless she really is just a crazy old lady, but I highly doubt that.
While we're, I guess, on the topic, I know we're about to get to thoughts and theories, but do you think it was wise for him to have asked her about the Volte Corporation, because she sort of leaned in and she was like, "How did you know that name?"
No.
You don't think so?
Or have no thoughts and theories.
I remember reading it and I was like, "I don't know."
Yeah.
They've been watching you. They know everything you should know. But,
Yeah.
And that
made
wasn't
me
recorded or
nervous.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, 'cause
I have
it's
a
almost
question. Oh, go ahead.
It's almost like Borant's boss, right? That's kind of how I look at it.
Well,
No, it's
Kind of
two
thing, right?
rival companies.
two separate entities, but I guess in the sense
One
that
owes
Borant
this one.
owes Volte
Monies.
money,
Okay,
you could
alright.
see it as sort of if they don't come up with the money, then yeah, they'd be bought out or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Because they mentioned Volte as a corporate government. So for some reason, I read that as they're a step above in the political hierarchy kind of thing.
well, Borant's also a corporation.
Yeah.
corporation government, and then Volte is just richer, basically. Borant's circling the
okay.
drain.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, my
Lauren.
question is, when you picked up Dungeon Crawler Carl and we talked to you guys about it, did you think we would be having conversations on conglomerates and companies
no.
buying each other out and
Board meeting.
Mergers and acquisitions.
Right.
Did you think we'd be talking about Gossip Girl?
Yeah, I talk about mergers and acquisitions at my day job at a corporation. They are not the
you're an
same.
expert?
This was the last part of the book, Odette's final piece of advice, where she says, "It's just a suggestion. I don't know if morally this is a good idea or not," which immediately made my ears perk up. But she says, "This will greatly increase your chances of survival. It's something to look for during class selection. It's generally only offered to crawlers with a high charisma. So if it's available, it'll be hidden somewhere amongst Donut's choices. The problem is, if you pick it, it's going to make someone very angry." I have no idea what to even guess for this because I know absolutely nothing about RPG classes, but we read the book.
Whoop, whoop. Guess we'll find out in book 2.
Yay.
As soon as you're done with the book, you can scroll down a little bit and it says new achievement. You read a book. You managed to make it all the way through the first Dungeon Crawler Carl book without throwing it against the wall. Reward. The next book has clowns and dead hookers in it. Oh my gosh.
Star ratings, because I tend to give decimals, I would give this one a 4.5. I guess if I did Goodreads, I would round it up to 5. I know that people don't like that, the decimals, but still loved it though. There's
People
just
don't
that
like that Goodreads doesn't let you put decimals.
Oh well,
I think people
Yeah,
good.
some apps do.
People love decimals. Let's not
Whoa, whoa,
Let's get
whoa.
one thing straight right now. Still loved it. There was just like that little space that wasn't quite a Cam put it down type of book. But I will say the last handful of like quote unquote events like leading up to them heading down to floor 3 were, I mean, like I flew through the last chapter section. Like it was all just one big wild ride. So that was a lot of fun to read through.
What do you got, Con?
I think I've landed on 4 stars. I went back and forth between like 4 to 5 because I don't typically do like a decimal. But the world building in this book is insane without feeling overwhelming. I love all the little glimpses of lore and politics that we get that hint at like how massive the world could be. I am obsessed with Princess Donut and Carl and Monko. Lots of lovable and hateable side characters, which I do think are very important and make the book feel a lot more memorable. There was a good deal of character development for how plot driven the story is, and the pace is real fast. I can confidently say I have never read a book like this one before.
really.
Shocks me.
And I did really love it despite not knowing much about like RPGs or having prior experience with them. Yeah, I just was like, I was laughing out loud while I was reading. I was making faces of disgust and shock while I was reading. I wasn't immediately confident about like a 5-star rating because I still like kind of like John said, still haven't hit that moment of like obsession where I'm counting down the minutes until I can get back to the story. Like I'm not quite there yet, but I think that's partially a combination of my current mush brain and just like the sheer shock factor of this book. Like I am still not quite sure what I'm reading, but there are a lot of things that I'm looking forward to in book 2.
Nice. Yeah, on my first read, I gave this a very hesitant 4 stars because I think there was just so much of that shock factor and some stuff that like I wasn't really sure where I sat with all of that. On the reread, I'm giving it a solid 4 stars, very confident 4 stars, leaning more towards like 5, but I'm not going to go all the way there. The way that Matt begins the book and just like within the first chapter and it just sucks you into the world and you just are immediately enveloped in everything that's going on, and the pacing is really, really quick. There's just so much information to process. It can just feel like a lot. I think a little bit. It's not like too overwhelming that it's like horrible to read and stuff. It's very funny throughout the whole thing. I think that helps with some of that balance. I really did enjoy the reread because I think I understood it a lot better. And then I saw a bunch of new things that I had missed before, and Kyle and I kind of got to talk about a little bit. And I'm excited to talk in Discord with all of the rereaders on it. I also just loved reading it with my eyeballs this time and not just doing the audiobook only. And getting to see all the little cute pictures at the beginning of all the chapters. That was really fun for me and new. And I don't know, I'm just excited to continue the series and doing it on the podcast and everything and getting your guys' reactions. It's just really fun. So, yay.
Nice.
Kyle?
I'm giving it a solid 3.7 stars.
Wow.
Because
this is your book you picked for us to read, Kyle.
I know, but listen... I always say, I don't change the rating from the first time I read it. And the first time I read it,
That's not fair.
Listening to the book while on the road was an experience. If I could describe the book in one noise, it'd be like, oh. But it was...
Wow. That's a new one. How do you put that
I
into
get it.
Goodreads?
You need the audible rating system.
Oh my gosh.
I had to really sit with myself and ask, is this something I'm going to continue? And I think we got home after listening to the rest of it on the way back and listening to other stuff. And it took me probably a few days. And I went to Lauren and I was like, I think I'm going to read the next one. And I remember you being like, okay. You're like, because we were, yeah, whatever. And I was like, Not because of the writing, which was like I thought really smart and witty, and like the voice
Yeah.
narration, which was the best I've ever really heard in an audiobook. It was just such a weird and wild ride. I didn't know if I had picked a gem off the shelf or just something so out there. It was the first book I chose for myself to read in ages. So I was like, is this normal these days? Or like, what am I doing here? But I am like so glad that it was good, and like I kept going, because on this second read, being able to physically read along helped me pick up a lot of things that I had missed while driving or hadn't realized the significance of, that I now know, only having read the whole series, and I simply cannot wait to restart the next one. So I won't. Go ahead and give us your theories. I'm just gonna read over here.
Wow. Oh, he's got the book right there.
All right. Well,
ahead,
thanks for
Kyle,
being on the
give me
episode,
your
Kyle. John, what do you have for theories?
All right. Well, I really only have one. The solid one that I have is Agatha being a spy for the Valte Corporation, especially since they apparently like can't see her, which I've been like thinking about that. I feel like there's some holes in that whole thing about like not being able to see her. So like she obviously doesn't leave like a ton of dead bodies around, right? But if they can see the mobs running around, and then there's like a little, blob that it all of a sudden disappears, and then when it goes away, the mobs are all of a sudden dead.
Yeah, but I don't think
Like
she's
that would
killing
be kind of
anything.
weird.
Last time we saw her, she was level 3 or level 2.
But like I thought it said at the beginning when they went down, or when they went to floor 2, that they thought he could tell that she had ran over something with her cart.
It said it was
Yeah.
killed by Crawler Agatha, I think, when it was
Yeah.
like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Under her cart.
So, but like I imagine Borant doesn't know about her. I wouldn't think so, which is also kind of weird, because I feel like being an incredibly advanced AI, like it could literally see her, unless it's just like going off the camera footage throughout the dungeon, unless she has some kind of shielding from even the camera. But then like, wouldn't it see and hear Carl talking to someone? Like I'm just spiraling all these like,
Yeah, it
what ifs
slowly
and
turned into
stuff.
all caps. That was very funny.
Yeah, just I'm what's his name with the red string from
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of how I feel about this right now. So
All right. What do you got, Con?
What I actually wrote is, girl, I don't know how I'm supposed to guess any of the things that come out of Matt Dinniman's brain.
That's valid.
But I do know that B isn't dead, because they've talked about it way too much. I am fully on board with John's theory about Agatha being a Valte spy. This was the part where I thought it was a little sus that Mordecai suddenly like cleaned up all his space and tidied up, and he seemed so happy, like right before they went to the 3rd floor. Because I was like, they're not going to the 4th floor yet. That doesn't make sense unless they had like escalated that too. We are being told that the Kuatin are the real bad guys, which leads me to believe they're definitely not, because this is only book 1 and we are already learning some info about them and the political situation. It sounds like Borant can also be controlled, and this universe is absolutely massive. So I am eating up these little morsels of political corporate info, and I cannot wait to learn more.
I love that. Well, that takes us to the cry counter for book 1, and nobody
Well.
cried. You got close, or maybe just in your feels, maybe for Yvette, but more in your horrified, not
More,
necessarily
yes,
crying.
horrified shock.
Yes. Maybe we'll get you in
Tears
the
of
next
fear.
one. Maybe.
all right.
Stop
well,
reading, Kyle, and
Yeah,
come back
I'll
to the
take a little
episode.
break. Well, wasn't that something we all read together? What a wild welcome to a series. We're going directly into book 2 next week, Carl's Doomsday Scenario. We're reading chapters 1 to 9, and we hope that you survived the roller coaster that was this book so far, the series so far, ready to go down a few more floors with us as we continue our coverage. Remember, however, if you are delving deeper into the dungeon than our podcast has covered, please do not send us spoilers to our DMs or spoilers anywhere aside from the spoiler chat over on our Discord. There's also a spoiler-free chat for all you dungeon newbies out there.
new achievement. You have completed the first book. You now somewhat understand the rules, the tone, and the unfortunate truth that this series does not get simpler from here. You believe you are prepared. You are incorrect. Reward? Imaginary badge of false confidence. A cheap, non-magical, and most importantly, imaginary badge that radiates the unmistakable aura of someone who thinks they know what's going on. Cannot be sold, cannot be removed. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Between Pages and Friends. Check out BetweenPagesandFriends.com for merch, events, and to sign up for our newsletter to keep up with all things happening at BPNF. Until next time, stay wordy, stay nerdy, don't stress, and stay blessed.
Woohoo!
There we go.
If it can't be removed, how would you sell it?
Exactly.